Hello and welcome to Tuesday's Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who always makes the playoffs. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I appreciate that since I think at this time last year I was the man who doesn't always make the playoffs. I'm pretty sure. So this year I've made it. That's good to know.
Well, we've expanded so it's a top two of the Total Soccer Show.
I see.
Make the playoffs every year.
It's very MLS of us.
We both go straight to the championship game. You are the Western Conference. I'm the Eastern Conference, and we play our championship game in Iceland.
Okay, perfect. I think.
Right?
I think that might give you the competitive advantage.
Why?
Because it's closer to you.
Is it?
Yeah, Iceland's closer to the East Coast than the West Coast. Yeah.
Greenland? Maybe 1 year we got Iceland.
Still closer to the East Coast. love your knowledge of geography.
All right, I'm changing it to London. This deal's getting worse all the time.
Yeah. And now you're the NFL. Perfect.
We are here today to talk domestic soccer. We're going to talk MLS. We're going to talk USL playoffs. We're going to talk NWSL semi-finals. Today's show is sponsored by
Roughneck Scarves.
Roughneck
I thought you were
Scarves.
waiting for me to make a joke about like Bud Light or something for the domestic nature of things.
I was making sure you knew who today's
yes, sir.
show was sponsored
Well, it's written
by.
on the chalkboard, so that helps. But yes, our sponsoring MLS content is Roughneck Scarves.
Yep, they are the official providers of MLS and US soccer scarves and USL scarves. If you want to get yourself a scarf, support your team, support the Total Soccer Show, you can go to roughneckscarves.com, use coupon code Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase to get 20% off. Speaking of show, on with it, Taylor.
Yes, sir.
On with it.
Let's do it.
Shall we start with MLS? We're coming towards the end of the regular season. Playoffs are coming. Some teams are in, some teams are out. You're safe, don't worry.
Okay, that's good.
So we've each got three things we want to talk about with MLS.
Ish.
We haven't quite shared what they're going to be, so they're going to be a surprise. What have you got, Tal? I'll let you start with your first MLS thing you want to talk about.
I want to talk about Manchester United and apparently every other Premier League club scouting Alphonso Davies, the 15-year-old forward for the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Okay, before we get into this, is this definitely true, or is this like crazy tabloidy stuff?
It's definitely true that a Jose Mourinho scout was at their game, one of their most recent games, watching, I think, him play.
Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting. So Alphonso Davies is, I know he's 15, I know he's Canadian, I think he's played for Canadian U20s, and I know he played against Seattle Sounders this weekend.
Yeah, Liberia-born, Edmonton-raised, but he does not have a Canadian passport as of yet, from what I understand.
Really?
So maybe can't play for Canada yet? Give it time.
I'm pretty certain he's played for the U20s.
Well, then maybe he just can't travel with them. I'm not quite sure how that works. But yeah. And then the biggest thing with him, I guess, from like a transfer standpoint as to why he's being scouted, why Vancouver will want to hold on to him is because they get a decent chunk of the sell-on money. They don't necessarily make that much money off of his sale because obviously MLS holds on to, I think, 75 or 25%, so they only get 75%.
Right.
But sell-on values, I guess they can get some from. So
we'll classic sort of sell-on deal.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do with that.
Don't you then want him to go to a smaller team who would then sell him on to a Manchester United? You should be looking to sell him to like Wigan or, you know what I'm saying?
We can't say for sure that Manchester United isn't a selling club at this point, so says the Manchester United fan. No, I think I'd rather him stay with Vancouver, if I'm being totally honest, because he's getting first-team minutes, and you would not know it that he was the 15-year-old on the field.
Well, you know who wouldn't rather see him stay with Vancouver?
The Seattle defense.
O'Neal Fisher.
Yeah, specifically. Yeah.
Seattle. He was playing left back at the time. He'd actually subbed into the game for Flacco. Seattle left back, who Alphonso Davies sort of burned, went around Gareth Bale style, so maybe Davies ends up at Real Madrid, and forced O'Neal Fisher to sort of hold him back and give away a penalty kick.
Yeah, and you mentioned that like just from the Gareth Bale going out of bounds and like running back in.
The famous Gareth Bale moment, right, in Copa del Rey, I believe.
But really, that actually does show you how good of a player Davies is, that he cuts it across himself like with that outside of the left foot, keeps the ball in bounds, but has the kind of physical control to relatively stop on a dime and then cut back and then be at full speed immediately and really give O'Neal Fisher problems, hence the penalty. But it's just that level of like speed but control that shows you that he's a pretty decent player, I'd have to say.
O'Neal
or at
Fisher,
least athlete.
O'Neal Fisher, bad enough day that he subbed into that game because of an injury to Flacco, and is later subbed out of that game for Brad Evans. I think Alphonso Davies gave him a bad evening.
Never a great sign, subbing in and subbing out. And then he was subbed out for Brad Davis?
Brad Evans, excuse
me.
The classic Total Soccer Show mistake.
I did it. Brad Evans comes in, scores the winner, scores the penalty, and then gets his marching orders.
Yep. So this is one of my things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Brad Evans back from injury, subs into this game for Seattle Sounders, straps on the armband, wins a penalty kick against Harvey. I think he crosses it in, forces Harvey into a handball, takes the penalty kick, scores it, and then about 5 minutes later, is sent off. And he's protesting afterwards, Brad Evans, that it shouldn't have been a red card.
Right.
But we went back and looked at this.
Well, why don't you talk about what it was first? Like, why did he what was the red card for? What happened?
Well, I actually don't know what it's for.
I think for violent conduct.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Because, okay, so what happens is it's a Seattle corner, and Evans and Edgar are they're contesting something, right? And you don't see exactly what happens, but you see Evans go to the floor, right?
We don't see exactly what happened because the camera is on the corner kick taker.
Yeah.
And I loved it because I feel like there was one moment where you paused it for like 10 seconds, and it seemed as though you were like maybe hoping that it would just switch to a different angle if you left it paused long enough. But it did not. It stayed on the kick taker. So we don't know why Evans goes to the
Evans
ground.
on the floor,
we
right?
would assume it's a shove in the back, and that's what
Something
he's
from
frustrated
Edgar.
by.
Yeah. And then obviously they sort of get in each other's faces afterwards, Evans and Edgar. And Evans does this sort of like violent motion with his head. He does not make contact with Edgar. He does it sort of to the side of him. And it seems like I can't tell, he's either sort of trying to fake him out, you know that thing like where you pretend to be hard?
Yeah.
Or he's sort of showing Edgar what Edgar had done. But either way, if you do that head motion, you risk getting a red card. Yeah. And, I mean, much as I love Brad Evans, I really do. I really admire him as a player and a person. I don't think you can complain about a red card when you make that sort of violent motion.
No, I agree with you. He definitely thinks...
People will complain about the word violent motion, but it is, right? Even if you don't make contact, if you make that sudden head movement when you're right next to someone, it looks bad.
Well, when you've already made contact, and I know people will say that Evans wasn't the first one to make the contact, and that's why maybe it's not necessarily his fault. I was willing to defend him when I thought he was like reenacting it or sort of reacting and being like, oh, come on, man, and like throwing his head around in like sort of an attempt to show how frustrated he was.
Yeah.
But then he himself said, like, no, I was definitely showing like what he had done. And then it's like, well, then you're admitting that you were like doing a violent gesture while you were head-to-head with somebody. So even if you're not making violent contact, it's still a violent action.
Just don't risk it, right? You should be smarter than that.
Yeah.
You should be smarter than that. Seems that Brian Schmetzer is smart, though, because, I mean, he had to make a lot of changes, the Seattle coach, in this game. Because of the early injury, he moved things around. Then he moved things around to get Evans back in, and Evans wins the game for him.
Yep.
Put Seattle pretty clear into the playoffs. I think they're not even sixth now. They're up to fifth in the West. They're looking good for that playoff spot, and it wasn't so long ago they were looking out of the playoffs altogether.
And then again, I mean, if you're just tuning into MLS, this is also a Seattle team without Glenn Dempsey, who's out for the rest of the season with that heart murmur. So it's basically Jordan Morris up top running the attack, Nico Ladero trying to find him in that attack.
Ladero wasn't even in this game.
There you go.
Hercules Gomez was in. Blast from the past.
Blast from the past, indeed. Who I love when he takes to Twitter, kind of like Aziz Ansari. Like, they both will take to Twitter to be like, where's the best place here? And it's like, oh, that's where he's playing now. Got it, cool. And speaking of Ladero, I did want to mention one of my things was that he was caught up by Uruguay for their World Cup qualifiers against Venezuela and Colombia, which is a nice sign that he is like still in the good graces with Uruguay, that he still gets that attention and is being rewarded for solid performances.
Were you kind of expecting him to move to MLS and then not be called up because he'd left Argentina?
Not necessarily, because I mean it's a little different than say like Giovinco moving from Italy.
Because he already wasn't quite in the Italy team,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's also sort of, I feel like there's more of a tradition of South American and Central American players coming to Major League Soccer than there is Europeans, or at least Europeans of that kind of top level.
Yeah.
So not like, I wasn't expecting him to just be like gone off of the Uruguay team, but it's nice to see that he has continued to perform and look like a very key part of the Seattle team, this resurgent Seattle team, and that it seems like Uruguay rewarding him for that as much as just continuing to reward him for being a good player.
Yeah, or at least not punishing him for going to MLS. Sure. That's the good thing, right?
Yeah.
So everyone can be like, all Uruguayans can be like, okay, that's an okay destination then. I'll add that to my list.
So should we move away from the Pacific Northwest? Do you have other areas of Major League Soccer you'd like to talk about?
Well, speaking of international call-ups, I want to talk about Harrison Afful.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I think you told me that Harrison Afful has been called up for Ghana.
Yep.
Was this one of your things you wanted to talk about today?
It was not. But I saw the tweet of him kind of smiling in profile with the Ghanaian flag held up. So he seemed pretty pleased to get that call up.
Yeah, so Columbus right back Harrison Afful has been called up for Ghana. The thing I want to talk about is his goal against Chicago this weekend. So I saw this in a sort of an MLS highlight show. This ball, the right back Afful hits it from outside the box. It moves left, right, left on its way to goal. It bends 3 different ways.
Yep.
So
he put some knuckle on it.
I think that this is a magic is real situation.
Really? We're going back to this? Yeah. You're just saying this to get me angry, aren't you?
Slightly.
Yep. Thanks for that. I'm not engaging. I'm just going to be over here deep breathing.
I put this goal on the big Total Soccer Show screen for you to ask you, Taylor, please tell me, how did Harrison Afful make this ball do this thing? And I think you came up with the answer.
Well, I mean, I think it's that it's not really much like twisting and curving as much as it is just knuckling, because he's put no spin on it because he doesn't have much of a follow through. He basically strikes the ball very hard and then does everything in his power to stop his leg from following through.
Which is the opposite of what you should do, right? If
so
you coach good technique, you follow through.
Exactly. If you're coaching U10s, you teach them, you have your plant foot, you strike with your dominant foot, and then you land on that dominant foot.
Right.
If you watch Afful, he strikes that ball, and his plant foot does not move, and then his striking foot comes back and actually comes around his plant foot, but kind of remains in the air.
So does that create spin, or does that create something else? Because when you say knuckle, I have to be honest, I don't quite know what that means.
It basically means
I know the ball does weird things, but I don't know what that means.
It's because there's no spin on it. So the natural spin basically allows the ball to continue on its trajectory. When you have no spin, it kind of just dances all over the place. Yeah, so that's why. So it's like turbulence
in an airplane is what ends up happening to that ball.
Sure,
you just get bounced around.
I think that's one way to put it. But and I'm sure baseball fans, we hear about this whenever I try to reference baseball, so I apologize.
Yay!
But that's why you have.
I'm looking forward to the emails. Taylor at TotalSoccerShow.com. It's TAYLOR.
You want to be in on them though, right? So it should be contact@TotalSoccerShow.com, so you can see people making fun of me.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's why you have knuckleball specialists, is because it's such a specialized pitch that there's a lot. I think Tim Wakefield was the big one who that was his pitch, and that's why that's all you kind of do, because you don't need a fastball and a curveball when you've just got this one pitch that dances all over the place. If you can nail that, then you're good to go. So I think it's, again, same thing with Afful. If you can nail that knuckleball, you see what happens.
I wanna hope that Ghana, I don't know who the Ghana coach is. I hope that they were watching this and were like, yes,
that'll do.
This guy, get him in.
Yeah.
All right, I just did 2 in a row. So what are your things you want to talk about with MLS?
Sure. I want to talk about Big Sam. Because obviously that's what we have to do when it comes to Major League Soccer.
Is this because of that newspaper headline?
Which one?
So the front page of the Mirror had a headline that they quoted a friend of Big Sam saying he'd be interested in giving it a go in the US.
Yes, which is the most, and then you read kind of the most tenuous links possible. He played for Tampa Bay, and he considered it a formative experience or a life-changing experience. There's 2 different quotes in there.
And the unnamed friend who was giving this story to the Mirror.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But it seems like sort of he one time mentioned that he liked the United States and he needs a job, so why not kind of bring this up?
Yeah.
The other hilarious part of this is I think it was a couple Minnesota fans just decided to start a rumor that Minnesota United were in for Big Sam.
Didn't we joke about this a couple Total Soccer shows ago?
Did we?
He would be a good hire for Minnesota or even Atlanta. We'll talk about Atlanta later.
Yeah.
Because he would know his way around MLS rules.
But much like the time when the Reddit community created the rumor linking Zlatan Ibrahimovic then playing for PSG with a move to Monaco, because it was like this, what move would never happen, and thus we can claim credit for it when people start reporting it, and then people did report that. Similarly, I think people did start reporting this as though it was done, and I especially enjoyed a lot of the language that was used in those tweets. So if you want to go and find that Twitter correspondence, it's pretty good, because it's a lot of I'm telling you right now, I have the best sources, and my sources say he's going to Minnesota.
The best sources.
Yeah, I have all the best sources, the huge sources.
So you would search what, Allardyce, Minnesota, if you want to find that?
I think that'll do
I know
it.
what I'm doing after we record this show to see what's going on. I've got one more for you. I mentioned Columbus earlier. We've got to talk about the fact that it looks like Columbus Crew and Portland Timbers, your MLS Cup 2015 finalists, right now they're not making the playoffs.
Not great.
That's crazy.
Not great.
Right?
I think from a person who enjoys consistency, so that I can be like, okay, I know these 2 teams, I've got them. Oh, I don't know these 2 teams because they're not in the playoffs. And it really seems like, they're going to be on the outside looking in.
And the reason I wanted to, so it's not definite yet, and you can look at all those ESPN percentage things of who's making the playoffs. For some reason, those drive me crazy. That was nearly my thing to talk about.
Because you hate maths. See, I added an S for you just to make you feel comfortable.
It's more that why not just look at the points and then work it out yourself? That's part of the fun, right? Not having someone tell you what the percentage chance
Whatever.
is.
When I try to work out maths on the board, that's when I get made fun of and get called a crazy person.
Still up there.
I think it's because I wrote in purple.
It's literally in purple crayon, Taylor.
It's purple chalk.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Crayola purple chalk. I see where you were confused, but still.
What was I talking about? Portland Timbers, Columbus Crew.
There's a great. What was the English woman who she started appearing on The Office in the later seasons? She plays Nellie. You know her.
Oh, in the US office.
Yeah.
She's Donna Noble.
Yeah.
Catherine Tate.
Yeah, she has a whole thing where she gets Dwight to agree to something against that he definitely doesn't want to agree to because she uses a ridiculous font. He's like, I knew it wasn't a serious plan because no one would use a ridiculous font. And then it cuts to her and she says, when you want someone to agree to something that they don't want to agree to, use a ridiculous font. That's what I did. I used ridiculous font and ridiculous chalk to make this happen.
So that's to keep the World Cup at 32 teams.
Exactly.
I was talking about Columbus Crew, Portland Timbers. So I put a call out on Twitter last night. What do you want to hear about with MLS? A lot of the responses we got was, can you guys try and explain how this has happened, how the two finalists from 2015 look like they're not making the playoffs? The answer is we probably can't, because we haven't watched in depth all season, right? So any answers we have are going to be kind of generalized and broad.
Surface, yeah.
But let's do it anyway.
Sure. I mean, my biggest answer for Columbus would be the situation with Kai Kamara.
Yes, mine
which
too.
is not necessarily just that he has left and gone to New England, but also, and hates whistles. If you haven't seen that GIF, it's awesome. But not just that he left and then you miss his goal-scoring ability, but just also kind of the drama in the beginning of the season. And it's always difficult when you have this big-name player who is agitating for a move and is very unhappy. That's obviously going to bleed in the locker room and cause problems. Then I think once he moves, you then have to figure out what to do with this kind of gap that you now have and how to deal with that. And I think it took some time.
Would you know how they replaced him?
They got Harrison Afful to shoot more often?
With another Kamara.
Yep.
Yeah. So, he's been doing pretty much okay. But the problems have been the guy that Kamara had the clash with originally, Higuain.
Right.
They sort of, in the end, Berhalter chose sides, right? He's like, Federico Higuain's the guy.
And by all accounts, that was what fans preferred. That was what a lot of analysts preferred. You back Higuain in this situation.
The only guy who disagreed on his podcast, The Mutant Gene, Alexi Lalas, was big on number 9s are hard to come by. You've got to stick with Kai Kamara and get rid of everything else. The problem is what happened.
He loves Kai Kamara, I'm pretty sure.
He does. Higuain got injured. I think either round about that time had hernia surgery. So to me, this is the problem with Columbus, right? They lose Kai Kamara.
Injury don't lie? Is that the situation?
Then they lose Higuain to that hernia operation. Will Trapp has a concussion. So that's 3 major pieces from your 2015 season suddenly unavailable for long stretches and in Kai Kamara's place permanently unavailable.
That'll do it.
Right, so that sort of explains Columbus Crew. I'm sure there's more to it. I'm sure Columbus fans would tell us exactly what the reasons are. Maybe Harrison Afful should have started shooting every game from outside the box. Just knuckle that ball in every time.
That would have done it.
Win 3-0 every week.
Yep.
For Portland Timbers, if you remember, Portland Timbers, I know we all think of that glorious team of 2015. They were not like top of the West or in the Supporters' Shield race or anything like that. They were late into the playoffs with a late run when Caleb Porter figured out that sort of 4-3-3 with Darlington Nagby in the middle.
Were they the last place team in terms of seeding? I think they might have been.
It was literally a year ago.
I think they might have been the lowest ranked Western Conference team. Could be wrong there, but definitely, your point still stands. I mean, they were definitely in that kind of play-in round. Didn't automatically qualify or get that first round bye. That is. So I mean, they definitely squeaked in, and then could have gotten eliminated in the playoffs early last year if it weren't for like the 11 round penalty in the 10th round. I think it was when the penalty hits both. It double dinged.
Yeah, it
both
double
posts, and that's why they got to go through in the end.
I remember watching that right here in this office.
Yes, sir.
And the way I remember it is Caleb Porter sort of accidentally stumbled into this sort of magic 4-3-3. Because of injuries, he ended up having a midfield 3 of Chara, Valeri, Nagby. And it worked, right? From that point, like the end of the regular season, right the way through to MLS Cup and holding the trophy and all of that stuff.
Stars on Twitter handles, yep.
Stars on Twitter handles, yes. But I think my prediction at the start of the season is that they wouldn't stick with that 4-3-3 the whole way through. My logic being that there was a reason why he hadn't gone with it in the first place, right? It's probably not perfect for all occasions. And here we are. We see the Portland Timbers in, a 4-2-3-1. And I think we see Nagby back out on the right wing instead of being at the heart of this beautiful passing machine. Rapids Rabbi recently sent us a link sort of explaining, on Twitter this was, sort of explaining that this is what's wrong with Nagby, essentially, is that he's stuck out on the wing.
And if you're wondering why that was the case, it's because Rapids Rabbi, obviously writing about Colorado Rapids, writing after the Rapids defeated Portland at home 1-0. So it was another road loss for Portland. I think they still only have 1 on the season. They just broke their scoreless or their winless drought and then proceeded to lose to Colorado.
Oh, yeah. So that may explain some of Portland's problems. The other one, it's got to be Nat Borchers, right? You can't underestimate the importance of Nat Borchers, and I think his beard is distracting. You forget that he's a magnificent sort of centre-back and leader. Yeah,
I mean, and when you don't have that kind of proven entity in there, and I think you're right when it comes to leadership and chemistry, you need him. And then I do think while we're on the subject of chemistry, similar to Kai Kamara, there were those rumors about Fernando Adi wanting a transfer away, that maybe he was unhappy with his role within the team. We saw him benched and missed the bus or whatever it was, or missed the flight, and it was a whole big thing. So it seems like maybe there's been some discord in the locker room for Portland as well.
Can I ask you a big picture question?
Sure.
How do you feel about the idea of the MLS Cup finalists potentially not making the playoffs? Do you go like the Alexi Lalas route where you say, parity's great, parity's what makes this league exciting, parity is why NYCFC could be awful last year and brilliant this year? Or do you wish there was more consistency and that you could be like, well, the teams to beat are Portland Timbers and Columbus Crew?
I thought about this a lot today. I really did. Watching the dogs, I thought about this. While I was waiting for you to get here, I thought about this. And my answer is, honestly, I think I don't care. Because and I don't mean that.
Way?
Yeah, just because I have arguments, I have feelings in favor. Because I really was trying to get that in my head because that was going to be one of my points. It's parity's the worst or parity's the best. And I honestly,
you crossfire. You got to choose one or the other.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I don't want to choose one or the other because I don't feel that strongly either way.
Yeah.
So then I feel like to argue on behalf of one or the other would be a bit disingenuous, and I'd rather just say it's frustrating, as I said, because I like knowing Portland are really good, Columbus are really good. I'm excited for those games because I don't watch the league probably as much as I should. So
the FX show.
Yes, exactly. I've watched enough of the league. I don't need that show. 9/11, yeah, it's great. Good stuff, Steve Randazzi. He was made to punish for it, so it's fine. But I like the idea of having those kind of, you can turn on the TV and you're like, oh, this team is playing this team. That's really exciting. Uh-huh. And I think unless you're following the league, that can become problematic because, for example, I think now, having watched the playoffs last season, having watched some of the regular season this year, I would say the team that I would most want to watch is FC Dallas. But I don't think that they are the sexiest name when it comes to TV ratings because they're not one that's bringing in crazy big name DPs and they're not kind of a historically huge city like LA and New York when it comes to soccer. So I think they kind of fall by the wayside when they definitely shouldn't. So it goes back and forth, I think, for me, because then it also allows teams like FC Dallas to get in those big players and to be exciting.
This is why we're not on AM sports radio, because you can't just be like, parity's the worst, and I can go, parity's the best, and we can yell about it for an hour, right?
Yeah.
And phase 3 is profit.
But who wants that? Who wants I mean, and I know you're right, and I know that's what it is, but it's just honestly, we're going off on a different tangent, and I'm fine with that. But I find that stuff to be so frustrating because you don't get anywhere with it. Because it almost always ends.
It's almost the point of it, right?
It almost always ends with the host having to interject, even though you know that they're not really that upset about it, and be like, "All right, moving on to a new topic," or they end up kind of laughing and be like, "Oh, we're always going to disagree," and it's just you don't really have any resolution. Whereas I do think, and I guess I'll toot our own horn here to say that I feel like sometimes you and I do come from opposing sides or do have sort of similar views but maybe different in a couple different ways. And I feel like talking about it, that's a part of the show I really enjoy, is we can kind of talk it out and be like, okay, I see your point, and we work from there as opposed to I am telling you right now, parity is the worst thing in this league, and then you have to do your own thing, and then we go into this stupid back and forth that gets us nowhere. So that's what I'm saying.
Well, let's see if we have opposing views on Tata Martino.
I don't think we will.
I know I've already had my 3 things, but I've realised we haven't talked about Atlanta United appointing Gerardo Martino, a.k.a. Tata Martino, as the new head coach. He'll be the head coach for the 2017 season. So are you thumbs up or thumbs down on this? I mean, obviously it's exciting. It's a big name.
Yeah.
But to me, it feels a little bit weird.
Why is that? Because he's such a big name?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't quite fit. And the last time a big name came, it was Ruud Gullit, and that didn't work out. You know what I'm saying?
I do, but it's still a little bit different, right? Because even Ruud Gullit failed at Newcastle, had gone to Feyenoord, quit because he didn't win anything, had been at a managerial service for a while,
right? And
then he gets this job with LA. It's a little bit different than Martino, who admittedly hasn't won a whole lot, but I mean,
he's sort of famously the coach who keeps finishing second with Leo Messi at the 2 Copa Americas in a row. Yeah. And in La Liga, but still, his Barcelona team was pretty good.
Yeah, obviously.
His Argentina teams were pretty good.
And then there's the whole instability with the federation that I think he wasn't too thrilled about. Yeah. And so I mean so that all plays into it. So I think it's a manager who probably could have gotten some offers. Supposedly, I think turned down Club America to go to Atlanta. So I think it's a manager who was an attractive hire for some clubs. Going to an MLS club is a big deal.
It's a great statement about MLS, right? There's part of me that's a little I'm not sure this is a good idea, though. Because thing is, expansion team. Yeah. An expansion team is such a weird, unique thing in soccer, an American expansion team. Tata Martino has never done an expansion draft, as I understand it. And getting that right is a really tough thing to do, right? He's got Carlos Bocanegra there, who's the technical director. He's not an experienced executive, right? I know he's an experienced player. He's not an experienced executive. It's also a lot of pressure. First year, suddenly because it's Martino, it's this weighty thing, right? You big expectations. So an expansion team is going to struggle in its first year, and then it's Tata Martino is struggling in MLS.
Right. And you also talk about pressure, and one of the things that you see kind of reported consistently is about why they went after Martino in the first place. And if you believe reports, it was he, Martino, who contacted Atlanta first, and then Atlanta pursued. But it was about how they wanted, from the start, they wanted to be this kind of high-pressure, high-pressing team. And that is why you go after Martino, and that's why I think it could work, because you could then look at players available in the Super Draft and say, this guy's capable of that, he runs a lot, he's very physically fit, he can follow orders, and then you can kind of go like, I almost think of...
Do you mean the expansion draft or the Super Draft? Super Draft is the college one?
Yeah, both. Yeah. I mean both. But mostly actually...
the double draft.
But mostly in the expansion draft, because I almost think of it as the Moneyball scene with Billy Beane, where they're sort of like showing all the players that have been undervalued, being like, yes, but this guy can actually do this, and that's why we should get him. You made a big point, though, that sort of derailed a lot of my thinking, and it involves Kenwyne Jones.
Oh, because the DP was... Kenwyne Jones is with Atlanta as a DP. He's on loan somewhere else at the moment, right? But he's with Atlanta as a DP before Martino was even part of the conversation. Right? So you've already got this very expensive, very key part of your puzzle who may not necessarily fit with what your coach wants to do.
Yeah.
Now, Martino did... I remember Martino, when he took over Barcelona, did sometimes go more direct than Guardiola, but then who doesn't? But he also went flat and direct. It wasn't aerial balls for Kenwyne Jones to challenge. It's also about sort of high pressure and pressure from the front. And I don't know either way if Kenwyne Jones is inclined or good at doing that. But either way, that's a major piece of the pie that was decided. It's like a major ingredient in the pie that was decided on before the chef came in.
Right.
And the chef's suddenly like, well, I guess I'll make something with blueberries?
Yeah.
It's like he's on a cooking show.
Yeah. Well, but even like if you want to continue that metaphor, it's like
I chose blueberries at random, by the way. There's no weird analogy.
No, I got you. But I was going to say it's more like if a chef came in and they're like, "Wow, he's famed for being this great vegetarian chef, and he finds exciting ways to make vegetarian options into like entrees that even carnivores love."
Yeah.
And then his first entree, or like his first ingredient, is steak. And it's like now deal with that. And so it just makes me a little bit sort of like, well, maybe they're not so hell bent on that high pressing system. Maybe they are, but it's just still like there's definitely going to be some stuff to work out.
Oh, I've eaten plenty of Trinidadian food, actually. The answer should have been plantains.
Yeah.
Or roti.
Yeah. Do love me some plantains. But we'll see. But it's really exciting. It's exciting there. And then once Big Sam goes to Minnesota, it's going to be a great season.
When we're talking about how the effect of the Martino appointment is that a thing like Big Sam to Minnesota is like, it's out there, but it's not impossible. Because Martino to Atlanta was weird and impossible when you first start thinking about it. Now there's a picture of him with an Atlanta scarf, right?
Yeah, it would have been very weird.
Which, by the way, he could have got from roughneckscarves.com.
He could have. And I was going to go off on another ramble rant, but instead I'm going to say that's too brilliant of a bow to put on the end of this. So, yes, thank you to Roughneck Scarves for sponsoring our MLS coverage.
If you want to support our MLS coverage, you want to support our sponsor, go to roughneckscarves, spelled with 2 Fs, .com. Use the coupon Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase. Get 20% off your purchase.
So as we said, MLS playoffs upcoming, NWSL playoffs very much underway.
Yeah, almost over. Yeah. It was the semi-finals this weekend. It was Western New York Flash beat Portland Thorns 4-2.
4-3?
4-3, I apologise. That's the game that got all the attention because it was all kinds of drama.
Yeah.
And also Washington Spirit beat Chicago Red Stars 2-1. Both games in extra time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Let's sort of go in order of most goals.
Sure.
Not chronological order. Let's start with Western New York Flash's 4-3 win over Portland Thorns. First thing I want to say, great atmosphere.
Yeah.
Hosted by Portland. It was lively.
It was lively. It was loud. It was well attended. Both games were very well attended.
Is that right?
You had good atmospheres and good fan support there. But yeah, obviously Portland, I think, had slightly larger in terms of the attendance number. All
right, lots of goals. The one thing I was excited about watching this is I know US women's national team players, right? I don't watch enough NWSL to know who's on the fringes of the US women's national team. And in this game, you saw some players who were sort of recently added to the squad or on the fringes or in and around. And it was kind of interesting to be reminded that, just because this team has Tobin Heath doesn't mean they automatically win the game.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
But just because that team has Megan Klingenberg and Tobin Heath and Christine Sinclair.
You keep going.
Yeah, I mean, Lindsay Horan as well, Ali Long.
Yeah.
Like, you can start listing and you do kind of think, well, this is obviously the number one team. You start to understand why they had the best record in the league.
They are the regular season winners, right? But still, Western New York Flash put in a magnificent performance that included 3 goals out of the 4 from long throws from Jessica McDonald. And to me, this is kind of where this game was won and lost.
Yeah, because I think if you look at the narrative after the game, and I know if you're a Portland fan, there's been a lot made of how the officials missed some calls, could have given some penalties, probably should have given a few more cards. But I think there's a reason why those opportunities were there, and I think it's because Western New York chose to really go at Portland and really play a very physical style, and I think it worked. I think it kind of knocked them on their heels pretty quickly, and you saw Portland kind of throughout the game backing off, not being so inclined to get into physical challenges, and not being so aggressive in terms of their marking responsibilities. And that's where I think three throw-ins leading to 3 goals, kind of telling.
And here's the thing, right? Having a big throw is one thing, right? Western New York Flash have had that big throw all season. Some teams, I presume, because I haven't seen the games, have dealt with it better than others. I'm watching this Portland Thorns defence. I see this long throw coming in the box. I don't see them attacking the ball. And that's why those first 3 goals, most of them are from like weird scrambles that happen in the box, and then a Western New York Flash player gets a finish on it. If instead of backing off, they'd have like gone at it and like headed that ball clear and then gone at Western New York Flash, then I think Portland Thorns would be in a better situation. And I do wonder if it's sort of like, we've got all the talent, we can sort of rely on some Tobin Heath stepovers to get this game won.
Yeah, I mean, it may be that, but I think your header point is valid, especially on Western New York's 3rd goal, because that's the one where it comes in, it's flicked on, it kind of could be cleared by Portland, and instead it's this kind of like half header, like, oh, I got a head on it, at least that counts. Yeah. But you headed it right back into the path of the onrushing striker.
It's rough to name names. It was number 2, Reynolds. Yeah, she's sort of like backing off, a little bit timid, and as she heads it down, it's never going to be it's not a Julie Johnston headed clearance. No. Let's put it that way.
I know, and then it ends up with a really nice Lynn Williams goal, because it is that sort of, she does the like the FIFA 96 goal where she has no business like facing away from the goal and suddenly turns around and shoots like it shouldn't happen, like by physics, but it does, and instead the ball's in the back of the net of a lovely goal.
The other player I want to talk about is someone who I believe was just added to the US national team.
I can guess who it is.
Can you?
Sam Mewis?
Yes. Yep. Number 5, sort of. She seemed to be playing sort of defensive midfield for Western New York Flash. Did a really good job throughout the game. Makes me think like this could be the holding midfielder for the US going forward.
Yeah, I mean, she has...
Based on the one game I've seen.
Well, I mean, because number 1, she can get in there and get the goals. She scores the first goal. She gets the opener for Western New York. But then that last goal, and this is what I meant when I said it was kind of the whole game. It wasn't just that Portland were kind of shocked in the first 20 minutes and then rebounded and played physical themselves. Yeah. The final goal comes from a Megan Klingenberg throw to Ali Long, and it's kind of a weak throw, and Ali Long is standing, and Mewis just kind of steps in and takes the ball, drives, 80 yards, 60 yards, maybe plays a perfect through ball to Lynn Williams, who then finishes it away. So you have that kind of holding midfielder who can win the ball, drive forward, create goals, score goals herself. I would like to see Sam Mewis in that team.
And actually, isn't that goal maybe, even though 3 goals came from long throws, maybe that goal is the better sort of exemplar for the whole game, because Ali Long's just waiting for that ball to come to her, and Samantha Mewis is like, nope, I'm getting there first, then I'm going to drive upfield, then I'm going to put a through ball between your defence.
Yeah, and I think it is, but I think we would also be remiss if we didn't point out the fact that it does seem like Western New York did have that intentional tactic of, we know Lindsay Horan is very good on the ball, we know Tobin Heath is very good on the ball. If they start to do Horan and Heath things, maybe we just foul them. And there were a lot of kicks, there were a lot of hard fouls. I think Portland's equalizer, their second goal, that comes from a hard foul on Lindsay Horan that does get a yellow card. So I think there was also a little bit of targeting of the midfield to try to break up plays from Portland. Yeah. And so in the end, it's Western New York going through with a 4-3 win.
So they will be in the NWSL Championship game, which is this coming Sunday. It's at Houston Stadium. They will be playing against the Washington Spirit.
They will. But I want to say one more thing about that officiating, is that lots of criticism that I think it was an official who's only had like less than 10 NWSL games this season, like not very seasoned. Yeah. We know who the center referee is going to be for the final game.
Oh, it's Richmond's own.
Matt Franz. Yeah. I went to high school with him. Yeah. He's been announced as the center official. He has been refereeing for as long as I have known him. Oh, wow. So that's a good sign, I would say.
I hope he has a good game.
We've seen him do kickers games. He tends to be a very good kind of disciplinarian. He runs the game well. He manages the game well, and that's what you want from an official.
I imagine he'll have watched the Western New York Flash versus Portland game to get a feel for what's going on.
I just started messaging him all of the negative comments about the officiating crew from this game and being like, do better. So we'll see how he does.
Speaking of referees, the ref was heavily involved in Washington Spirit's 2-1 win over Chicago Red Stars. The game-winning goal, which came in extra time, came from a Chicago Red Stars attack.
I was so curious where you were going with this.
Which was accidentally broken up by the referee, and Washington Spirit break and score the winner in extra time.
Yeah.
I would say
definitely not the referee's fault.
I've forgotten the players. She's someone who's been called up for the national team. Colaprico? Yeah, she is attempting to play a square ball, hits the referee, and then Washington break with Nen.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I mean, you can't. No one's done anything wrong here, except that I think players need to know that the referee is physically solid. Referees aren't holograms that you can pass the ball through.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be aware. You got to pick your head up and make sure that pass gets through and doesn't bank off the referee's leg, because otherwise, Nairn is going to dribble again another 60 yards, play a ball into the channel, get the ball back, do a lovely 1-2, get in behind the defense, and square it, and it's a goal.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, right? Nairn was at the center of everything that happened after that. I want to think about this concept for a minute, though. When you play soccer, are you aware of the referee's position? Like, you sort of are aware of your teammates in this weird sort of empathic type thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can sort of like you're a betazoid. Like you can feel where all your teammates are and you see them at the corner of your eye. But I can't say I'm always aware where the referee is. So I can see that Caprico could have been like, I know there's a teammate to my left, don't know where the referee is, and that's how she got caught out. Okay,
I actually kind of want to continue this conversation because I'm fascinated by this. Does your brain not work by color? Because that's how my brain works.
Yeah, but I think it's more like you have a very sort of, I don't know whether it's high level or low level, but a perception of colour. Like, you know there's like, what was Chicago Red Stars wearing? I can't remember what colour they were wearing.
I think it was like light blue.
So you know there's like a light blue thing to your left that you know you can get the ball to, right? You know that's a good thing to get the ball to, but you don't necessarily know that there's whatever colour the ref was wearing in the way.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But I think for me, usually, like, if we are playing on a team that's like navy blue and the other team is red and then the official's wearing yellow, my brain is just navy blue is good, everything else is bad. And so that's kind of where I am if I'm making quick decisions. I'm just sort of aware of there's a bunch of players around me, they're wearing red, so I shouldn't pass the ball in that direction. That's kind of the way. I just go to like caveman zone.
But that includes the referee's location. That's what I'm getting at.
I think it's just because they're not wearing the color that I've identified as a thing that I can pass to.
Right.
I no longer consider them a passable option.
Okay. Either way, Nen does well when she gets the ball.
Yes, but anybody who gets mad at the referee for getting hit with the ball, you're dumb.
Right. And she didn't, right? To be fair, she didn't complain about it. I think she just knew, mistake.
Yeah. To the extent that one of the announcers just said, whoops. I'm like, oops.
That was the commentary.
Yeah.
By the way, commentary was good, right?
It was very good.
I was very impressed with the commentary on Fox Sports 1. It was proper play-by-play, as in, here's what's happening, who's got the ball, here's what they're doing. And then, especially because some players I didn't know about, little bits of trivia just dropped in, not a 5-minute sort of meander about something else. Thumbs up to the commentary team on Fox Sports 1.
Absolutely. And thumbs up to this game, because it was another very exciting game that started, I have to say, I didn't see it live. I saw, like, I was going through and watching bits and pieces here, and I knew that Ali Krieger scored in the 36th minute.
You didn't know she took the corner and scored from it?
Well, here's the thing, is that when she went over to take that corner, it was like 35-40. Right. I was like, come on. Take another 21 seconds. Take another 21 seconds because, like, maybe, just maybe, this is an Olympico goal. I feel like I would have heard about it. So that doesn't happen, but she does end up getting that goal with a beautiful, beautiful ball from Zadorsky, who is then the one at fault for the equalizer for Chicago. So an up-and-down game for her, but a really good ball and a really good finish from Ali Krieger.
Yeah, and actually it was one of those Julie Johnston heady clearances that sends that ball all the way. It was a big old clearance, right? But Zadorsky whips it back in, and Krieger's come back into the middle to get the header.
Yeah. But this one, weirdly more than the Portland game for how, like, loud of an atmosphere it was and how intense that was. This one felt more like the playoffs to me, and I can only say because I think both the goals came from sort of nervy mistakes where the opener comes from a defender basically letting Ali Krieger get goal side of her and then trying to make up for it. But it's definitely that, like, oh no, I can't make a mistake, I got to get to her. And then similarly with Christian Press's goal in the 81st minute, it comes about because Zadorsky basically misjudges the cross coming in, but you can tell
Press sneaks behind it, doesn't she?
You can see it's that half second, like, do I go, do I stay, oh no, and like it's just the kind of, you can see the anxiety and nerves on the players' faces, and that's what the playoffs are.
Speaking of, so the championship game, once again, is Sunday. It's this Sunday, right? It's on Fox Sports 1, I believe, and the kickoff is 5 o'clock Eastern.
You got it.
Do you have a pick for a winner?
I don't, really, because, again, I haven't watched probably enough of either team to say for sure, so I'm just going to go Washington Spirit, because Washington.
I'm going Western New York Flash just based on what we saw in that semi-final.
Yeah, I
You know what I
mean, they're a physical team, but they're also a very skillful team.
Yeah.
And then Washington, I would say the same. So
Plus long throws.
Yeah, there's that element. Hopefully, if you're a Washington Spirit fan, they're practicing those this week.
Right?
Yeah.
Without Arsene Wenger, he's not any help in that situation. Sticking with women's soccer, how about this Whitney Engen story? Have you seen this?
Mm-hmm.
So
what forcibly retired is the way we're putting it?
Weirdly, right. So she put out, it was social media, I can't remember if it was a Facebook or a tweet, basically saying, it was a long sort of announcement, basically, letting everybody know that Jill Ellis had told Whitney Engen, you're no longer in my plans, and you basically won't have one of those US soccer central contracts that you get for being on the women's national team.
Yep.
And Engen's been like the third choice centre-back behind Johnston and Sauerbrunn for a good while, and you assumed she was just sort of next in line, but instead she's out.
She's out. I mean, and I guess from that standpoint, it makes sense because it's not like Becky Sauerbrunn and Julie Johnston are going anywhere anytime soon.
So maybe you give the central contracts to younger players.
Yeah, exactly.
Like maybe Emily Sonnet, who scored the equaliser for Portland Thorns in that game, right?
So maybe it's that, but it is kind of the latest in a decently long list of poor, how should I say, like PR work by U.S. soccer, at least in the women's game. That like you're maybe the Hope Solo situation not handled as well as some people would have liked.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, any number of other issues of late.
Pick,
So I mean, it could be just another kind of example of maybe you guys need to work a little bit more on your organization and kind of delivering messages in a more emotionally helpful way.
But there you go, no more Whitney Engen, at least for the foreseeable future. I mean, she could always come back in some magnificent form that makes her not pickable. Pickable is the word.
Not pickable. I like it, yeah.
Once again, NWSL Championship, Sunday, 5 o'clock Eastern, Fox Sports 1. Final thing before we get to TSS Scouting Network, Taylor. The USL playoffs are in full effect.
The USL is dead to me.
The USL is dead to you?
Yes.
Because the Richmond Kickers are out.
This is correct.
They lost 2-0 to Louisville, I believe I pronounced that correctly, at Sluggerfield.
Yep.
In extra time. So let's start with the Kickers game then. You've seen the red card, right?
I have.
Samuel Asante for the Richmond Kickers gets a red card in, I believe, the 4th minute. The Kickers have to play the rest of the game with 10 men. They hold on till full time, concede immediately in extra time, and then again.
If you give me 3 guesses as to who got a red card in the first 4 minutes, I probably would have gotten it. I'll put it that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, because we've seen it happen already at City Stadium.
I think he's gotten 2 red cards this season already.
I think both for... So Samuel Asante is a short guy, right? And both for kind of high feet. It was a foot into the chest is where he got this red card.
Yeah, but I think also tends to be a bit tenacious and kind of unwilling to let stuff go, and that's never a good combination, so that easily can lead to a card, and in this case a red card in the 4th minute, definitely not ideal.
I will say, from all when we've seen literally every Kickers home game this season, right? I prefer Samuel Asante out on the wing.
Yep.
I prefer him going out a fullback than sort of battling it out in midfield because things like this can happen.
But congratulations to Louisville.
Yeah, of course.
I have many connections to Louisville and much love for Louisville.
Oh, you went to school in Kentucky, right?
I did, yes, and have many friends still living in Louisville. So,
right, so
I was did get some lovely tweets from the residents of Louisville after that result.
Lovely in quotation marks?
No, it was a lot of like a hard fought game, like good game, good season.
Yeah, and Kickers, I noticed head coach Lee Cowlishaw afterwards was saying, very proud of the team, like fought real hard, really competitive to go like 86 minutes with 10 men.
Yeah.
All right. Who else are we congratulating, who are we commiserating?
I'm going to do both for FC Cincinnati, who broke the USL playoff attendance record, 30,187 at that Charleston match, but also lost that Charleston match to the Charleston Battery, who I have a feeling could go pretty far in this playoffs.
Is that because of what we saw from Charleston Battery the last time they were at City Stadium?
Actually, yeah, and with that comes the, I guess, caveat that was when they had Andrew Carlton and Jeremy Ebobisse. I believe both are not eligible for the playoffs.
Yeah, because you have to play at least 5 games, and they've been sort of in and out. These are Atlanta players, by the way, Atlanta fans. Because if you've happened to download this show because you're an Atlanta fan to see what's up, keep an eye on Andrew Carlton and Jeremy Ebobisse, because what we saw of them in that game for Charleston, where they're on loan, really impressive.
Andrew Carlton, already an Atlanta United player. Ebobisse maybe will be drafted by Atlanta.
Oh, that's true, yeah. We shall see.
But with that in mind, though, you do still have the New York Red Bulls, who are doing decent things in USL too, destroying Orlando 4-0.
Right, so Charleston went through New York Red Bulls, beat Orlando 4-0. I mean, that was sort of what top seed plays bottom seed in the East. That's kind of how we expected that to go.
Yep.
More on that later in the Scouting Network, because I think we got some Derek Etienne Jr. to talk about.
You correct. But out on the West Coast, commiserations with our Sacramento Republic friends and listeners.
Yeah.
Their season is over.
Were they top of the West?
They were top of the West.
And they lost to LA, right?
Orange County Blue Star.
Orange County Blue.
Whatever they are. Yes. Orange County Blues, maybe? Yes.
That sounds right.
Yes. So commiserations to them as well.
Final thing with one eye on the East, I know New York Red Bulls will play Rochester Rhinos. It's going to be a battle of New York in the in the Eastern Conference semi-final.
Yes, it will. Ooh, man.
And it's going to be Rhinos versus Red Bulls. It's very it's like geographically on point and thematically on point.
I think in nature, I take Rhino. In terms of that game, I might go Red Bull.
It depends if we're talking actual mammal or can of energy drink.
Or mammal on a can of energy drink. That changes things considerably.
Then there's trouble. Then you got to call animal control.
You do. You do. Well, on that highly structured note, shall we move on to the final segment of today's show?
Yes, we should. It's the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. It's how we support ourselves here at the Total Soccer Show. Listeners support us by subscribing to the TSSSN and sending us reports on promising young players.
Yes, sir. First, we've got one that I think is close to your heart, and I don't really know why, but you seem to have a soft spot for him. It's Levi Garcia, scouted by DJ Ringus.
We've been talking Trinidadian food today. Yeah, DJ Ringus scouting Levi Garcia, 18-year-old left winger with AZ and the Trinidadian national team.
Yeah, Levi Garcia has been called up to the TNT national team for 2 games in the Caribbean Cup qualifiers, which also double as Gold Cup qualifiers. TNT will face the Dominican Republic on Wednesday and then Martinique on Tuesday. At club level, he hasn't been getting a lot of minutes this season for AZ, but he's always been in the matchday squad. So it shows you he's kind of up there in and around the team.
My condolences to the Dominican and Martinique right-backs.
Correct.
Up next, Ira Jersey. Ira Jersey is scouting Ashley Sanchez, 17-year-old forward with the US women's national team, the U17s. Ira says, it's the U17 World Cup right now. Ira says the US Under-17 women won their Group D opener against Paraguay 6-1 on Saturday, and Ashley Sanchez wore the captain's armband and showed off her considerable skills. Sanchez got a goal and an assist and burned a number of players over the course of the game. I assume that's not literally. The USA lost its second game against Ghana earlier this morning.
No report from Ira yet, although it did happen this morning, so understandable why. But I saw that when I woke up, much to like the shock of everyone on Twitter. I was like, what? The U.S. lost? How's that possible?
They're still in the tournament, though, right?
They are. That was their second group game, so they have 3 points from 2 games.
Okay.
So we shall see. Andrew Baird scouting Josh Perez. We are familiar with Josh Perez, the 18-year-old U.S. national team eligible Fiorentina forward. Andrew says Josh has been consistently starting and playing the full 90 for Fiorentina's Primavera team. This weekend, he earned the penalty that led to Fiorentina's lone goal in a 2-1 loss to Hellas Verona's Primavera squad. Unfortunately, Perez was left off the most recent US U20 roster for their upcoming Four Nations tournament, and no one is entirely certain why.
Including us, right? Because we've tried to get an answer on this. We're hoping it's just that he's doing so well at Fiorentina that maybe they think he should stay there for a bit, and stay around. Maybe get a look with the first team like Haji's son did recently.
That would be the hopeful explanation, is that Fiorentina were like, do you really need him because it is an international date, but he might get some first team minutes? And they're like, okay, fine, he can stay then. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I choose to believe.
All right, up next, Benjamin Solum is scouting Reece Oxford. Remember Reece Oxford?
I do.
He was 16 when he started for West Ham last season. He's now a 17-year-old West Ham defensive midfielder. Benjamin says, it's been reported that Oxford has grown frustrated with the lack of first-team opportunities and has been heavily linked to both Manchester teams.
That should do it.
He has 18... Yeah, that's an easy way to get first-team minutes, right? He has 18 months remaining on his current deal, and the Hammers are trying their best to ink him to a long-term contract. In fact, Slaven Bilic has personally guaranteed that he will get the deal done before time runs out.
But I think he's another one who's going to be up there with Alphonso Davies in terms of how many clubs are going to be linked with him over the next couple months.
Surely, if you're not getting in the West Ham team, you've got to maybe look to the Championship or to a different Premier League team. I'm not sure going to Manchester United or Manchester City is the way to get first team minutes.
True.
Yeah? All right, I am available for agent advice, Mr. Oxford.
Final report comes from Bill Quaid, a.k.a. Bill Quadruple. That was in his Gmail today, so that's what I'm going with. He's scouting Derek Etienne Jr., the 19-year-old striker for the New York Red Bulls and New York Red Bull 2.
And from Richmond, Virginia, I believe.
Sir. Derek continues to be key for the NYRB 2 team as they tackle the USL playoffs. He finished the season as the team's assist leader and also notched 5 goals. He didn't get on the score sheet in the aforementioned 4-0 playoff win over Orlando City 2, Orlando City B, but the game report mentioned him positively several times.
My memory of Derek Etienne Jr. when we saw him play against the Kickers for Red Bulls 2 was consistent, good balls, bent into the box.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
I remember that, and I remember him being one of those players who kind of knew where to be like position-wise, to frustrate his opponent.
Game
because
smarts.
he kind of would drop back, but would constantly drop in between like the outside back and the outside midfielder, so no one was entirely sure who was supposed to mark him. He would come inside at times to pull one with him to create space. He was very smart in terms of moving around to create instability in the kicker's defense.
Thank you to everybody who sent scouting reports for the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. Very much appreciate it. If you would like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, you can go to totalsoccershow.com/subscribe. All the information is there. One final note, Taylor, before we go today.
What you got?
Goalmouth.
Yeah.
Our new podcast, our collaboration with Dirty Tackle and Howler, it was in the top 100 of all iTunes podcasts this time yesterday.
It was. I made the mistake of asking, like, I told my wife there are the number you gave me, which is that there are 25,000 active podcasts on iTunes. And I said, which one do you think we were? Forgetting that, like, you kind of lose that 25,000. And she was like, 12? It's like, no. Get out of here. I think she said, like, 8 at first. And I was like, no. At least she didn't say 1, because that would have been a bit much.
No one sets higher standards for the Total Soccer Show and Goalmouth than our wives.
Correct.
Right? Kind of like it. They're driving us on. But if you haven't subscribed yet to Goalmouth, I would encourage you to find it in iTunes. It should be easy to find now. And please subscribe and please listen. There are 2 episodes out already. There's a 3rd episode coming Wednesday morning.
It's George from Howler is Wednesday, and then comes me on Thursday.
Tyler Rockwell on Thursday. You got to subscribe at least before Thursday.
And then Friday is?
Ryan Bailey.
There we are.
And then back to me on Monday. Yeah. If you're not familiar, Goalmouth is 5 minutes or fewer, 5 minutes or less podcast. All the news that you need to know every morning, 7 a.m. It's a short, sharp, newsy show, and it's been kind of funny so far. I've enjoyed listening to the ones that weren't me.
I would say it's all the news you need to know and some that you don't. But probably should anyway. That's how I'm going to phrase that one.
On that note, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again on Wednesday.